Welcome to the Change Book Podcast. And as you know, every first Monday of the week, I bring you a different author. And today we have an amazing one. But another thing I want to point out is it's the first Monday of March. And honestly, to me, it feels like each month is going by like a week used to. So, anyway, I'm just excited again to bring you another amazing author from our Change Book, Joann Marchese. I said that slow, so I pronounced it. I told her, I said, is this how I pronounce it? And then I even wrote it down so I didn't get it wrong. Joann, how are you this morning?
Wonderful, Nicole. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
I am excited to have you. And one of the first things I like to know from our authors, it just makes me excited to hear all this, but why did you choose the Change Book?
Well, I've been through so much change, through my life, but especially over the last few years. And a lot of this change has allowed me to grow in such a way that it has allowed me to help more people. And this book, I feel, is just the next level in trying to, spread the word of how people can, change their lives just by reprogramming their beliefs.
Absolutely. And I love that our book is empowering others. I think that's so important. So many people get stuck and they don't know which way to turn, what to go, or where to start. So when you started your journey of empowerment, because we always have a catalyst, what was your catalyst for change?
Interestingly enough, the universe has kind of been guiding me, this whole time, even when I didn't really know it.
Right?
The biggest catalyst for my change, it was actually like a twofold. I had one when I had left a very toxic marriage. And I, first started to decide on who I wanted to be because I didn't like the version of me that I was in that relationship. And I started off with like, okay, well, if you get to be the version of you that you want to be and not the version other people want you to be, what's the first thing you want to do? And my gut was like, I can't lie anymore. I want to be someone that's full of integrity. I want to make sure that people can trust my word and that I can trust my word, right? Like I didn't have to hide parts of me. So I had to be radically honest with myself. And that one thing changed my life because I had to change the way I behaved. I had to change the way I carried myself. And I had to be not afraid to tell the truth when it wasn't something that someone wanted to hear. So that was the first big piece to my self-discovery journey. But the second one that really pushed me into this work was after that had occurred and I went through my own, self-discovery and healing myself. I met the love of my life. And a month after we got married, he got diagnosed with cancer. And within 4 months, he was gone. And that huge catalyst changed my world. Like it was the most painful, but the most beautiful thing I've ever experienced and been involved in. And it made me shed the last layers of things that were holding me back to be my true authentic self. And that allowed me to push to do this work to help other people because the life I was living was so much better than I ever could imagine.
Wow, that's a crazy story. And it's so often things that we least expect. Like he was in your life 4 months. I mean, that's just a snap of the fingers, a blink of an eye.
Yes,
But yet you've kind of turned that around for
Mhm.
yourself, that it happened for you, not to you, to blossom into who you are.
Yes, we were together for I moved in exactly a year before he died. It was so weird to look at the symbolism and then the number, like all of it. But I went from watching this man who was like the strongest, he was a lot older than me. He wasn't my normal, person I would pick for myself. But there was something about it that the universe kind of sucked us together. And he was a little older. So, I thought, yeah, probably at one point he'll go before me, but nowhere close to the amount of time that it went. And it was just like I said, I went from watching him be like the strongest man to being completely dependent on me, and our relationship having to become so intimate. Like most relationships don't understand that intimacy has nothing to do with, sex and that kind of stuff.
Yes.
It's
True.
really being able to lean on each other, like fully supported, safe space. And he showed me that those things were possible, even through all of those changes. And that's what I wanted to bring to the world, because I didn't know a love like that was real. Like before him, I didn't know that I could be fully accepted in every version of me, even my flaws. So that taught me so much, and actually opened me up to, I've been remarried since.
Uh-huh.
And those things that I learned also helped me grow this new relationship, into something even more magical. So my beliefs didn't allow me to shut down, right? Like most people, I think the biggest thing that made me realize that it was all your belief system is because before he died, I thought I was going to be so lost. I thought I wasn't going to survive it. Like it was just so intense. And afterwards, I felt almost the opposite of that. I
Hmm.
felt very free. It was a very spiritual experience for me.
It
Um,
sounds like it. Yes.
and he and I loved each other so much that I knew that I needed to keep moving forward and give us, because he still was attached to me. Like he's still not gone. So I had to push through for both of us, and create this good life.
Wow, that's an amazing story. It really is. And Joanne, one of the things you mentioned that I find to be so interesting and so important is you talked about being truthful with yourself, not
Mhm.
lying to yourself anymore. And I've gone through that as well. Us doing our mirror work and saying, well, you better take a good look at yourself as well. And did you have to do mirror work after your first marriage? And be honest, open, honest with yourself and do a lot of work on you?
I did. I did it probably not in the normal sense of the word. I do more of that normal shadow work, or triggering review is kind of what I look at now. But back then, I didn't know what I was doing.
I love your honesty because that was me too. It's like, and I just kept hearing there's no right or wrong. Just flow with what you're being led to.
Yes, and I thought I needed practice. Like I didn't know how to hold my own energy. I didn't know how to hold my own needs. I didn't know how to, you know, I didn't even know how to date. Like when it first started, like I went from being in a 20-year marriage with I won't go into the major details, but it wasn't pleasant. I have two children.
Mhm.
It was going from that to, all right, now I have to figure out who I am. Now I have to rediscover what it is to date. I never really did that before. So I went to the extreme. I'm a very extreme person. Like I like I
It's one or the other.
autocorrect. Yeah, like all right, well, if that's not working, let's really try it over here. So I did something very unorthodox. I used dating to learn how to carry myself, how to be able to be myself completely at the first gate, because I didn't want to mess around. Like I don't have time to play those games. And if you don't like me for me, then then I needed to move on to the next. So I did what I call serial dating. Yeah, kind of.
You're out, you're out, you're out.
And I went on the apps, and I wanted to go to a museum, and I would find somebody who wanted to go with me and hang out. And I got to meet a lot of really awesome people, but I also got to learn so much about me. And I had every experience you could possibly experience. and every type of person, because I didn't want to limit myself. So I really wanted to really discover who I was and be able to hold my ground in my own self-confidence. And it took a little bit, but I feel like all that worked for me. That was my method, to really grab my power back and be like, okay, I'm not going to allow you to treat me that way. I am not going to stand here and, be disrespected, and be able to move on very quickly. Really helped me a lot.
Wow. And that's so interesting. And from, let's say, when you started that journey of serial dating to the time you found the person that was right for you, what did you learn about yourself?
I learned so much. Like, I learned that I really I had no real love for myself
Ooh,
prior. Like, I let everyone dictate who I should be. I let everyone convince me that I wasn't, that my light was too bright, right? Like, dulling my
as if
light.
there's such a thing.
Yes, dulling my light to make other people feel comfortable.
Mm,
There were so many things that I learned about myself, and the fact that I couldn't even accept certain things. Like, as I moved into the high, what I call the higher roles of love, which you really can't get to unless you're in a relationship, to be honest. Like, you
okay.
get you so far to love yourself, but then when you're in relationships, it's another level of love. Like, you have to be able to receive love.
Yes.
Right? Like, you have to allow people to do things for you, which was something that I had to learn how to do, which is dumb. Like, most people are like, I don't know what you're talking about. Of course I want to let people do things for me. But I felt uncomfortable because I've never really had that ability. So anytime like my husband would try to do something for me, I felt like I had to get up and help them. Right? Like, I couldn't just sit. So even like silly things like that, I had to grow out of, and learn how to really be able to love and allow myself to be loved.
Yeah, and that's so important. And I think there's so much conditioning that goes on, from
Mm.
childhood through the teens, through, whenever we do get married, that especially as women, and I think it's dissipating a little bit now, but we're so hard on ourselves because we've got that care gene, we want to help, we want to fix, we want to nurture. And sometimes the person we forget about is ourselves. Everybody's getting a piece of us. And at the end of the day, we've got nothing. How do you feel about that?
I agree. I think a lot of women do have that program. And I look at everything as programs, because whether or not we received it here from our parents or from strangers or whatever, we weren't born with this stuff, right? Like, we're not coming into this world saying, oh, we need to sacrifice ourselves to care for everyone else. We're learning that. And we learn that through, people we know, as well as TV, like that solidifies it. And we're learning it at such a young age. So those programs get solidified, especially in women. What we're expected to be is a complete contradiction, right? Like, we're expected to be smart, but not too smart.
It's like we can help how smart we are.
I know, right? Like there's all these contradictions. So being able to be brave enough to say, I don't care what the program says. I don't care what society thinks I should do. And having to do what's best for you. Like, for me, I'm very transparent and honest now. And I've not always made the best decisions, right? Like, when I was learning. And I had to make one of the hardest decisions a mother would have to do in order to leave and find and heal myself, right?
Hmm.
I had to leave my children.
Oh,
And
wow.
they wanted to stay with their father. And, based on the situation, it probably, at the time was the best thing for them. And the best thing for me, because I needed to heal these parts of me that I was teaching them. I didn't realize everything I was doing was programming them as well.
Yes.
Right.
I
So,
learned that the hard way as well.
correct. So everything that I had to do it on my own to show them. Right. I had to prove to them that, you need to do what's healthy for you, even if it's hard on other people, because eventually it comes back around. Everything ends up healing as long as you're doing the right work for the right reasons. Everything comes back and heals. Like, I'm now able to have full-blown conversations with my first husband. We have no problem. Like, everybody's able to communicate well now. And I think a lot of it had to do with me first having to be able to heal the stuff in me, heal my ego. So I didn't, flip out over stupid things that didn't matter. Right?
No. They did at the time, though. That's what's so interesting when you look back. You're like, but it mattered then. But that the old me was
Yes,
so different.
agreed.
And Joann, I see here that you're the founder of Infinite Mindset Coaching.
Yes.
I want you to tell us about that and tell us how you work with others to help them get over what you had to go through. So you maybe make it a little easier on them.
Sure. So I had experienced, I'm not sure if you're familiar with, but it's theta healing.
Mhm.
Back when I was doing my healing from, I've had previous history of trauma and abuse and a lot of things that I had to heal within me so that I can move into this new life and be brave enough to leave the first one, right? Like, I was there for 20 years. Like, it wasn't great in the beginning. So it took me that long to heal the things in me that says, I don't deserve this, right? That's a
Mhm.
lot. So, but I did therapy and all of that, and nothing really healed me. I just sat there and you just vent and you talk about the same stuff and it's
Over
not
and
really
over and
fixing anything.
over.
Exactly. So I did this theta healing where we reprogrammed parts of my belief system. And oh my goodness, it was like 5 years of therapy in one day. One day, overnight, it was different. So that was like my first taste. It was like the universe was kind of like throwing things at me again, like throughout time. And that was the first taste of what I realized was subconscious reprogramming. So I started working on that with myself, testing theories and trying to really see how far I could push this programming. And I also became a Reiki master, which I was kind of guided to do. So after my husband died, I became brave and I was like, all right, I want to help people and I want to bring all these gifts that I've learned together to treat the person as a whole. Theta healing's good, but it only treats the mind. Energy and Reiki work is good, but it only treats the body. So I wanted to bring both modalities together, as well as my experience from everything that I've experienced in my life, to bring together this holistic approach to helping people heal their body and their mind. Because the things that we hold on to don't just affect our programming and how we're actioning our items moving forward, but it's also storing in our body. The energy is storing in there. So I felt like doing the two kind of gives it a real punch. and
Mhm.
and I've seen such great work with my clients,
Yeah.
and I've just continued to grow it. And now I've also incorporated, I created a journal to go with the work so that we can have more constructive success by being able to document the triggers and the patterns that you're having. So we can have that elevated look, because I'm about helping people make change. I don't want you to come to me and just sit here and vent and not make progress. Like, that's not helping you. I'm all about trying to get to those core beliefs so that we can reprogram them and you can move forward with a much happier, healthy life. One that you wouldn't even realize even existed, because the belief systems get you so stuck
Ooh,
to the cycle that, like, I didn't know I could live the life that I'm living right now. Like, I went from being miserable, anxious, depressed, even suicidal, to be
wow.
to a life that is magical.
To
um,
say the
I am
least, right?
full of love, like in ways that I never thought I could feel supported by my spouse and my lifestyle and the universe. Like, I'm just really blessed.
Oh, that's wonderful. Now, do you incorporate forgiveness into your practice?
Yes. So it's not, I would I would say for most people, yes, it's forgiveness, but it's a little bit more than that,
Mhm.
right? It's not about, when people hear forgiveness, they think, oh, I'm letting them get away with it, right? And it's not that. It is the fact that you still remember and you don't you take the lesson, but you no longer are holding on to the energy, right?
Yes.
You rechange the story to how this is working for you. So I work a lot with my clients trying to make them understand, that yes, you might have had a really hard start to your path, but that path is designed to grow you. If everything was perfect all the time, we would never, ever, ever grow.
Absolutely. And that was my learning as well. And as I look back on it, because I had a horrible marriage, a horrible divorce, and narcissist, you name it, I went through it. 25 years, and it just every day it's like, burying you more and more and more. And as I reflect back, I wouldn't be who I am today had that not happened. So I just reframe a lot of things that it didn't happen to me, it happened for me, and
Agreed.
changed my life tremendously because, when we are helping others, I truly believe someone that's 18 and just gotten their Reiki certificate can't relate to someone who's been married 25 years. I think, unfortunately, we have to live through the hardship and deeply understand what we've gone through, and then look back on it and say, okay, I understand now. And then we can move forward with all the things that you're talking about.
Agreed. Like, how could I help someone that has had loss if I didn't experience loss? How could I
Right.
help someone who's been sexually assaulted or raped if I haven't been, right? Like, I know that's kind of, some people are like, that's a sick way to think about it, but it is. Like, how do you relate to people and help them through these really tough times, that are meant to help you grow ultimately, but they're so painful.
Right. Right. There's so many people that want to mire themselves in it and make that who they are. And
Mhm.
it's like, oh no, don't do that. Let's step over the martyring and the blame, shame, and that to get to the true you. And honestly, and I think you would agree that who I was then, I didn't know this person right now.
Mhm.
I had no idea she existed because I didn't know who she was. I didn't know what she wanted. I didn't know what she needed. And as I started empowering myself with forgiveness, that's when my self-love came in. And had I not discovered that and understood that it's okay to love myself, I don't know where I'd be. Do some of your clients come in not loving themselves?
Oh, every one of them. Like,
Okay.
I think everyone at the very core, for the most part, I'd say about a good portion of the population, I would even say probably about 90%, have
Mm,
this unworthy program somewhere in there, that has to be worked out. Uh, that's usually the first belief that I try to work on, because if you don't feel like you're worthy, then you're never going to do the work to really get to a higher level than that, right? So I like to try to identify the core ones, the real, ones that are affecting majority of the things. I always say it's like a Jenga set, right? You have
uh-huh.
all these little beliefs that sit
Cool.
on top of the core, and if you pull out the core, then all the other ones fall. So I work a lot with trying to help my people identify what their cores are, because a lot of people who've never done this work, it's really hard for them to get to the bottom of it, because they like to say very superficial. Well, my boss, I had a bad day with my boss today, and my boss flipped out on me, and I don't understand it. But then they go back, then I'm with them, and I'm like, all right, well, what's the event?
Yeah.
Have you felt this way
Yeah.
before? Like, oh, so when your dad did this to you, so then you bring it back to the real why and where the trigger's actually coming from, because a lot of people like to stay at the superficial side of the trigger.
It's safe. It's still safe there because when you dig down and you dig deep, and one thing I've learned is I will always be a work in progress. As much work as I've done, I'll be driving or something, and all of a sudden, man, a trigger hits me. I'm like, where did that come from? Thought I addressed that years ago, but it like bubbles up out of nowhere. But at least I know now. It's like, okay, just let's work on it. Let's get rid of it. So,
And you notice they come up, it's easier now
oh
than it
yeah,
was
with
at
this
the beginning.
crystalline body, are you kidding? I feel everything now. It's like with our old bodies, our dense carbon base, we could stuff things down and we never felt it. And now it's like all of a sudden it's like, okay, what is this? I need to work on it. Okay, everybody stop.
But it's easier for you to address and resolve than it was for you back then. Like
Oh
before,
yes.
you didn't even see them, you just saw them as everybody else. So it's very interesting. The more you work on it, yes, you find more things. But sometimes I feel it's like even the universe giving you a pop quiz saying, hey, remember this time we tested this? Let's see if you're still working on it or are you healed.
Let's see. Yeah.
And when you're fully healed about it, it'll come up and you won't even respond. And that's where I want to get most of the people at, because it is such a peaceful place to be.
Oh, it
Like I
really
didn't even know
is.
peace was a thing. Like, what do you mean peace before?
And when I look at my old life of chaos and pain and grief and just your stomach always in a knot, and I compare it to now, because I have a life of gratitude and love and simplicity, and sometimes I wake up in the morning, I don't have to look for gratitude. It is embedded now.
Mhm.
And I just think to myself, oh, I wish everyone could wake up like this.
I know.
You know,
And that's why I pushed to do this, because like I said, if I didn't experience the programming, I might not be here.
wow.
I might still be stuck in a very bad stuck situation.
Yeah, and I have to tell you, Joanne, I am very glad you're here.
Me too.
You validate that which I know, but you also, I can feel your heart, which is very, very big. And I always tell people, things are changing. Our earth has changed. Everything's different,
I
and we
know.
have to start thinking, feeling, and talking with our hearts. And I can feel that in you. And I just, for one, I'm so pleased that you came on today. We're almost out of time, and I'm just like, there's about 10,000 things I want to talk about. But you've been a delightful interview.
Oh, thank you
I
so
always, I
much.
love to feel good when the interview's over, and you have absolutely done that. But while we still have a few minutes, could you just give us a few nuggets for our audience to take with them today?
Your belief system creates your entire reality. If you don't like your reality, look at your belief system.
Ooh.
Because ultimately, as soon as you change something, it's weird because it's all energetic, right? So here's the biggest piece, and I'm going to go way out there for this one. Time doesn't really exist, supposedly, right? It's all happening now.
Construct. Yeah. Yes.
So
I believe
as
that.
you heal the thing inside you now, you're actually healing it backwards and forwards. So you're allowing in layman's terms, I'll use metaphors, you're letting the old version of you rest, right? You thank them for what they got you to, and it allows that version of you to rest now. And it allows this new version of you to be created. And it doesn't only impact you, but it impacts everyone around you. So it'll change your generational trauma. It'll affect your parents. It'll affect your children. And you don't have to do anything but heal and be, which is
Ooh.
just the most amazing thing. I've seen my children change because of my healing. I've watched my parents change because my dad changed because of my healing. And I've watched my environment around me change because of my healing. And I just want that for everyone else to know that this is possible.
Yes, that perfectly said. That's so deep and so true. So I want to thank you for that. And I just want to let everybody know that's watching this, if you want to get a hold of Joann, I have links in there where you can find her. And as you can tell, she is very knowledgeable, very wise. And if you are looking for self, I think you should get a hold of her. So Joann, thank you so much for being on the Change Book podcast today. When does your book come out? Is it out yet?
It is not out yet. I have not heard a release date yet, but it should be. I'm hoping in the next month or two.
Okay, wonderful, wonderful. Well, thank you everyone for watching today. This has been another amazing interview with one of our authors, and I so appreciate everyone watching. Joann, thank you for being on, and everybody, I will see you soon.
Thank you so much, Nicole.
You're welcome.
Have a great day.